Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Friday, April 10th, and thank God it's Friday. Crazy week, and we'll see. It's going to be probably a pretty crazy weekend too. We'll see what happens with these negotiations and what comes out of it. Just heard that they are charging tolls now for ships to get through, and that's just not going to be flying. So I'm just starting to think that this whole thing is going to come apart. We'll find out. We'll see. Not much we can do about it. Just watch prices of oil, watch the headlines, and then let's see if the market's going to react to something. We have news this morning. We got the CPI number coming out at 8:30. At 10, we get consumer sentiment and factory orders. And that is about it. So 8:30 CPI, consumer sentiment, and factory orders at 10. And then let's see what kind of reaction. The CPI number should have the some impact of that on the oil prices. So it's probably going to be a harder than expected number, and then see if the market is going to be all weirded out about it, or they're going to just take it with a grain of salt. So far the overnight, as you can tell, it's been pretty much in a holding pattern. Not much going on with it. We are right up here in this upper area again on the ES, in this upper distribution, and on the capital flow. So we are back up in a spot where we can go higher, or we can just head right back down again. It just depends. But as you can tell, we had a nice move out of the middle to the upside here from that news that we had a ceasefire, but it can come back off again pretty freaking quick, and then who knows what happens with the market at that point. We have earnings season kicking up to pretty soon, so we're gonna have earnings coming out as well, and that's also going to be an interesting factor in this whole dynamic. So I would start off, if the market, as long as the market holds about that 68.50 level, I want to start on the long side, range bound with a bias to the upside, I should say, primarily range bound bias to the upside. Let's see if they can take it higher, but I would favor the long side at least to get started. And if they start trading in below that 68.50s, 45 to 50s here. One level below that would be the 35s. Both of them comes out, bets are off. To be a back range bound, may in that lower area again. So any bad news comes out, you can certainly head right back down again. And if any further good news comes out, then we'll see where we end up. So that's kind of how we get started. Looking for short setups against the 68.70s. We just a little bit of caution on that, but I think if they're gonna trade higher, this better short's gonna come up here in this upper area. So when you start hitting the 69.15s, right about up here, that's when you start getting a better resistance. So in the meantime, this whole blob of volume is pretty much going to be an area they trade back and forth in. So lower end of that range, that big blob is going to be down here at the 68.40s. The lower support area, I'm going to have to adjust this area, I guess, here in a little bit. I was keying in on this volume edge. That's still valid, but you also have a TPO edge up here at the 40s, which is worth looking at. So, yes, maybe make this one a little bit wider. Yeah, I can do that just to capture a little bit of what I'm thinking. I'll go in here and say, from this runabout there all the way down to that volume edge, something like that. That captures a little bit better that lower area. So in this whole area, we have potential support. That area comes out to trade below that 68.15s. Yeah, bets are off at that point. We're heading lower. So, but starting off range bound primarily, you can see how the market is just in a flat out holding pattern. After we get past the CPI and the consumer sentiment numbers at 8:30 and 10, then we'll know a little bit more about the direction of the market, if they're going to be holding, retracing, or at least how they're digesting the potential increase in inflation based on oil prices. So we'll see how that shakes out. But starting off with a slight bias to the upside. Now, as I said, the trade below that 35, so I'm going to assume that long bias is gone, and we are basically heading back in this lower range, potentially heading lower. So I think we get confirmation below these support areas. They start trading below the 67.90s and the 67.80s. These two support areas. At that point, we are heading lower. So those are key areas. Then we are back in retracing this whole move to the upside we have when the ceasefire was announced. So we have got a couple of days behind us. Let's see how that whole thing shakes out. On the Nasdaq, same story there. Pretty much in a holding pattern, but Nasdaq is still stuck in this range. They did take out the 250s here, or 240, 250s, but just barely in the overnight. One level above the obvious. Uh, just trying. So again, it's starting range bound, slight bias to the upside since they took out this upper edge. If they trade below the 190s, I would give it below the 140s. Bets are off, and we are back in this lower range again. So it's initially looking to buy against that 190 and the 140, 150s rotations up. Looking for short setups against the 300s, the 330s for rotations down. Above 330s, I think we have a shot at heading up to that 440s already. So we have it's a pretty good TPO edge here at the 440, 450s. And you can see a little volume edge associated with it as well. But that's kind of where we are on that one. I'm not sure whether these levels look kind of weird. I mean, that looks like a mistake up here. But so I mean, so if they keep if they hold up here and see the reaction to the CPI is not as bad, we may see them finally running up here and testing the 450s. Could very well happen. But as I said, nothing is by any means set in stone. The market has not turned around yet. It's just reacting. It's like a bounce of a ceasefire in the hopes that it's going to be it's going to keep going. And if it comes back on again, if they as they're doing that, all they're playing games, and they include. I mean, this is just so typical. They all include all this stuff it wasn't talked about, and they change the deal, and it just, yeah, it just. I mean, I would never be able to do any deal with any person like that. It's just you can't stay with one set of you can't have an agreement and you stick with it, or it's understood what it is. But yeah, the next day it's changed. Oh no, we meant this, or we meant that. I mean that's what's going on. So it's just an absolute impossibility to make anything happen there. So chances are the whole thing is going to come apart again, and then you will find out if they're willing to resume operations. That happens, I think we're heading lower again, and when the market is not going to be reacting favorably to it. Oil is probably going to spike as well at that point. So anyway, that's kind of what we have in front of us. So initially looking to buy weakness against the 250s, the 190s down to the 140s, 150s. Below that one, bets are off, and I think we're heading lower. Definitely confirmation below that 960s and the 920s, these two support areas in the lower end. That gives us, that kind of confirms the whole thing is heading lower at that point. But 920, 930s, that's kind of 920s, 930s. That means we've taken out this mode here as well. So this whole mode right up here in this big distribution on the F1 is kind of where this whole thing stalled for a while. Yes, up here testing that upper edge. As I said, if it holds, if we can take it out, we may find ourselves in this lower range pretty quick. And we may find ourselves even at the lower end of this range, then in the 24,600 range again. So we'll see. But initially starting off on that long side, look and see if we're going to get a little bit of lift. But it can change pretty quick. It can change based on the news this morning. It can change based on any headlines coming out of today's today's trading. And basically, the weekend is going to be the big key here. Hopefully, we come out of the weekend with some clarity. But if I would make a bet, I think the Iranians is going to be there doing their thing, coming up with all the reasons why they need another week or 2 or 3 or whatever it is to keep talking, and that's just the game, Keep talking, keep dragging it out, and then try to survive, So yes, the Nasdaq holding pattern, slight bias to the upside. On the bond side of things, pretty much staying in a range there as well, pretty tight range at that. So not much going on the bond market, around 114s. That's a little bit lower than that's a little bit capital flow here just a little bit below that attractor area. And I'm going to adjust these levels. I'm going to do it now. That one's going to be up there. This guy and a small attractor area there. And we're going to probably add a level here. There. So there. So that kind of the levels and the edges to pay attention to. So these are in a range. Here's your mode right there. And that one is important. That is your attractor area on 115.10. We are kind of right below it, shy of it right now. But by all means, not outside this range. We're still trading very much in the range on the bonds. So I would look to sell strength against the 1410s, 1415, 16s, 1420s. Looking to buy weakness against the 114s, 1324, 25s, 1318s for rotations back up again. Straightforward, pretty easy to, unless there were some big moves on the bonds, but that's pretty much the range. There's nothing going on the treasury today. So, all right, back to the ES. Nothing to say about the cryptos either. That's going to keep tracking. If I do any trades on that, I'll show you that later. But those are still very much active. I just put together a small manual how to connect Coinbase to the platform. I'm going to send out an email about that. If I get it done today, I'll get it out today. If not, then I'll probably send it out over the weekend. But I'm going to send out an announcement about it. So I'll see see if I can get some more traction, some more new business come out. People want to trade Coinbase. It would be interesting. All righty, guys, we'll leave it there. So ES Nasdaq range bound, slight bias to the upside. The bond markets is just flat out range bound, and then we'll see how did we react to news, CPI this morning, and the consumer sentiment numbers, and of course headlines. And don't forget, so soon we're going to get earnings report starts kicking back up, and that's going to be also very interesting. Alrighty, guys, leave it there. Good trading, and I'll see you back at 11:30 for the next update.